Welcome back, Shalligators, and welcome back, Dash Dolls. We are continuing our series that we're going to do all through this season, breaking down every one of the Kardashian episodes, because you know what? It is the last season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I'm sad. I love that show. I like the family. People are like, they're disgusting. Oh, sounds like some of y'all didn't manage to turn a blowjob into $1 billion like Kim did. Sorry about it. You know what? Hate the game, not the player. Maybe fuck smarter and not harder. Kim did. Good for her. Can't begrudge him. Can't knock the hustle. Anyway, we're not just here to talk about blowjobs. When do we not? Actually, if you guys want some blowjob tips, head over to Flaze. It's our uncensored ad-free platform. We are talking penis size, uncircumcised versus circumcised, BJs, HJs, all the stuff that we can't talk about here on YouTube. But like I said, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about this episode and what's going on with Tristan and Khloe, because you guys have been asking for an update on this. We've done like 10 videos on Tristan and Khloe. Can you change a cheater? When to leave a cheater? How to recover from the humiliation of being cheated on? On and on and on. And the eventuality I think so many of us saw coming has finally arrived. It is wrought upon us. They're fucking back together. We knew this. I did a video last August. I remember because it was the weekend I first met Cowboy, my little puppy. I remember that a source, her, was like, you know what? They get along great in quarantine. He's so focused on her. And I was like, no shit. A man is focused on you when there's literally nothing else for him to do. That is not a sign of fidelity. That's not a challenge. It's a hostage. So she has talked sort of like there's shades of that coming up in this episode that we saw. So we're going to break it down and talk about what to do if you're in the Khloe position, when your friends, your family hate your ex, but you want to get back together, or you're simply in a position, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with dating or romance, where you're going against the grain, right? Your family wants you to go to USC Law. You want to go to UCSD and study whales. How do you rebel? How do you find your own voice? How do you move forward knowing you're disappointing everyone who knows you? Is that the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? We're going to talk all about it. Plus, we're going to touch on Kendall's question about wanting kids. I've got some thoughts of my own, but like I said, before we get into it, head over to Flaze. Get some dick tips in your life. I've done my fair share of, shall we say, field research on the human male penis. Now that I own a boy dog, I know too much about those things too. Horrifying. Violent. And but we're talking circumcised and uncircumcised. Also, if you guys have a one-on-one question you want to connect with me, you can chat with me on my website, shallonlester.com. You can click submit a question. I get back to you in just a few days. It's great. I love helping you guys. Or if you want like a video shout out, a pep talk for a friend, a birthday wish for yourself or someone else, head over to Cameo. I am on there. I have a perfect 5-star rating because I talk for like 5 minutes. I just love talking to you guys. So that's really fun. Okay. The Ks, the Kardashians. Oh my God, dude. Oh, Khloe and Tristan. If you don't know the saga with Khloe and Tristan, here's the TLDR. He is a fucking cheater. Cannot keep his dick in his pants. I will admit, I'm sure it's a giant one. Am I talking too much about penises? I've been like out in the desert. I'm out in my house in California, Palm Springs, and it's been a desert in a lot of ways, let me just say. So perhaps I'm like too attuned to like wiener things. I'm so sorry. But yeah, he's just a chronic cheater. We all know that he cheated on her publicly with 2 skanks at a club when she was literally in labor with their child, like 9 months pregnant. Then he went on to cheat with her close friend and employee, Jordan Woods. And, you know, this channel actually started to take off when Jordan did her red table talk and was just like, as I viewed it, so completely full of shit. And, you know, I broke down all the signs that she was lying and she was completely unrepentant. And she's done videos more recently, like explaining herself and her like Quaalude voice. Like, how many Xanax bars does it take to reach that monotone? I couldn't handle it. Khloe, I think, like I said, I think we all knew she was going to get back together with him. You know, it started off as co-parenting and we were like, and then like, well, we're quarantined together. And yeah, last August, there were reports like they're just getting along so well and he's so focused on her. And it's like, who can't make a relationship work if there is zero outside stimulation? If there's no jobs, bosses, mother-in-laws, bills, logistical carpool runs. And these are things that like the rest of us have to deal with, right? Like who can't have a good time when you're always on vacation? Basically, who is mad at Disneyland when all of the noise of the outside world doesn't exist? Khloe said almost this exact same thing in this episode. So the theme of this episode was called No Comment. The episode kicked off with the brouhaha over a comment Scott had left on one of Khloe's thirst traps last year. I believe this was filmed in like December, I want to say. I think. I don't know. Who cares? They've basically never really been broken up for all that long, so who fucking cares about the timeline? But he said something like, Tristan's a lucky man. And then like the internet went wild. And we start the episode with Khloe sitting with Scott and Kim and they're playing pool. And she's like, everyone just is going berserk and we're so disappointed in you. And Khloe's desperate for getting back together with him. And Kim is like, since when are you the girl who bows to public opinion? Like, come on. And that was sort of the overall arching extended theme for this episode. Khloe, you gotta just not care what people think. When people, the internet, and it's funny how the family and everyone in this show is like, what the internet has to say. Girl, I get it. Believe me, I get it. But instead of looking at this as like, the internet has things to say, you should be looking at this, Khloe, like the Greek chorus has things to say. What is a Greek chorus? Well, if you've ever been forced to read a Greek tragedy, something by Aeschylus or, I fucking hate Greek plays and Greek literature. They're awful. Like the Greek chorus, like you have the character like, I will sleep with my mother. And then you have like the Greek chorus in the background being like, bad idea. They're sort of like the voice of reason, like the voice of like conventional wisdom. So there is truly a psychological thing known as the wisdom of the crowd, where an individual person is maybe dumb, but then a group of people typically can look at a situation and extrapolate the veracity of what's going on. Now, this doesn't work in a ton of different situations. Gun control, this seems to be a big fucking issue with, right? Building a wall, also ridiculous. But a lot of times it works well in terms of interpersonal relationships. And Khloe and Tristan are a perfect example. Yeah, the individual people who are tweeting at her and commenting might be dummies who sleep on a mattress on the floor. Like, they might be. But even they can see, girl, he's a dog, right? And so Khloe is in a way doing herself a disservice by encapsulating all of this advice as just the internet, just the internet. And I don't blame her because look at the other messages from the internet she gets. You're fat, you're ugly, you look like a tranny, you look like a man, ba, ba, ba. So of course she's going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So it's like the one time maybe she should be listening to these things, she's like, no. But is she saying no? What I saw through this whole episode was this deep-seated like ruffling of feathers. And it was significant when Kim said, why now do you care? You know why, Khloe? Because now you know that it's true. That's when criticism can get to us. Not all the time. And we've talked about this before. Like sometimes accusations, they don't have to be true to be like very annoying. Do you want someone to call you a rapist or a murderer? I don't want people to call me a child molester. Not because it's true, but because it's insane, right? And so that's not always a metric of veracity. But I think the fact that she's so bothered by this, it's because it's kicking up something that's true. It's hitting up against something that she on some level knows. And so she's engaged in this cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, we talk about this all the time, is when what's going on or what your decisions are don't match what you want them to be. I hate this job, but I go every single day and I actually work weekends. I don't want to have kids and I'm pregnant. Cognitive dissonance. So we jump through all sort of mental hoops to justify our position and try to bridge the gap between what's happening and what we're thinking. And for Khloe, she has a fundamental idea of herself. I'm strong, I'm a bad bitch, I'm smart, I'm capable. I wouldn't stay with a cheater. But she also, we've talked about the psychology of Khloe, has an even more fundamental layer of, I'm not good enough. I'm the ugly sister. No one's ever going to actually love me. And that's why she's with Tristan. But in order to bridge the gap between, I can't stay with a cheater and he is a cheater, it's almost like she has to connect to that deeper, toxic foundational level of her tape loops in order to bridge that gap. Do you know what I mean? If she sticks with the idea that I'm a strong, bad bitch, well, look who I'm partnered with. But, well, if no one's ever going to love me and I'm disgusting, of course I'm going to be with them. Now I can justify that decision. She's damned if she does and she's damned if she doesn't. No matter which direction she goes in, it's going to cause her psychological pain, either from the cognitive dissonance or from believing these negative toxic tape loops that she's fundamentally unlovable. That's not good. So when she gets criticism from the outside world, or as she said, her inside world, she's like, I don't want my peers and people I respect to be like, this bitch. It's like she's got what Dr. Phil calls a psychological sunburn. A normal touch on someone without a sunburn, like, okay. You touch someone with a sunburn, the gentlest push is like, pain. And when we're in states of cognitive dissonance, we are psychologically sunburned, for sure. And I think it's so interesting that not interesting, just of course, that the one rushing to defend her decisions is who else? Scott Disick, like the king of cheats, like the fuckboy grand poobah, the grand fuckboy boss you have to slay when you've gotten through all the other ones, right? It's Scott. It's like, hey man, he's made mistakes. Scott, no shit, you want to normalize all this behavior. You want to see women take back cheaters. We wonder why. So you can eventually get Kourtney back? Like if he's got enough of a PowerPoint presentation, like, and she took back a cheater, and she took back a cheater, and they're happy, Kourtney. And of course, like that, I just love the scene where Scott and Tristan are together. Like it was just like the minimization fest. Like, yeah, you really worked. He's like, yeah, I really worked hard. And you're sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just pictured it like two death row murderers being like, yeah, so I killed some hookers at a truck stop. Yeah, who cares? You killed some hookers. Hookers die all the time. Exactly. What's the big deal? It's just like, okay. I love this justification minimization circle jerk that these two dudes have going on. Fantastic. But you do feel for Khloe because the data points she's basing all of this change on are literally once in a lifetime scenarios. A pandemic. Not even once in a lifetime, because that implies it happens in every person's lifetime. It doesn't. This is all completely uncharted territory with COVID. We know this, right? And so she's like, look, we work so well in a fucking pandemic. We work so well when he's not on the road playing basketball, getting his dick sucked by groupies. And she herself even sort of like rubs up against this idea. She's like, when there's not all this noise, and in that statement, she means the internet, she means other people's opinions. When there's not all this noise, we work great. Life is noise. Life is noise. Love is logistics. My married friend, and she's one of my only, honestly, happily married friends. She says this all the time. Love is logistics. Love is maybe only 15% of what it takes to make a marriage a true life partnership work. It is logistics. Can you pass stress tests? If we're at the airport, the plane's canceled, the baby's screaming, can you fix it? Or are you going to be adding to the stress? Are you bringing enough money to make our life function? Love is logistics. And Khloe is saying, hey, love, this works great without any logistics. So that to me says all they have is love, which is about 15%. You have a 15% relationship. If that was a grade and you got a 15 on a test, that's like something vastly below an F. Like it's not even a grade anymore. It's like an R, So she's not accumulating these data points in a way that are adding up for a true composite of viability for this relationship. And again, she seems to, on some level, know this because she's so bothered by these comments. She says, recently, I just feel like I've been so affected by this. And it's like, I can't even make up my mind because there's so many opinions, Like, I don't even know how I feel about something. That is cognitive dissonance. When we say, I don't know how I feel about something. Okay. First of all, if you're watching this, you might be younger. And what typifies youth than not having data points about experiences, how you feel about things, outcomes? You're not supposed to know exactly 100% how you feel about everything. You're exploring, you're learning, you're gathering those data points. Khloe is 36 years old. She has the data points. So it kind of is like a little bit of baloney to me that she's like, I just don't know how I feel. Ugh, you do know how you feel, but it's butting up against your intuition, which is like, this dude is probably going to cheat again. The reason he's so faithful and so plugged in is he literally has nowhere else to go. He has nowhere else to go. It's either he stays here with me, gets laid, gives me some compliments every once in a while. Oh, he's like picking up the dog poop, he's changing the baby, whatever. But it's either he puts in that basic 15% effort, or he goes back to Cleveland and sits in his house by himself. What a fantastic compliment. You love me when there's literally no other option. We're in your own personal Guantanamo Bay here, and I am your only hope. Okay, that's great. That's great. Is this what we want for ourselves? So how do we learn from this? Oh, one last thing. I love how Khloe turned around and was like, I'm not judging Kim. I'm just here for as a sounding board. But this is to her credit. It's like when we go through things where we have been highly judged for a decision, whether it's romantic or otherwise, it gives us that empathy to be less critical and judgmental of other people. You know, like I totally get it. Oh, but Khloe. Okay, so what can we learn from this? What can we learn from this? So how do we tune out the judgments of others? What advice could we give Khloe besides get the fuck away and turn the hose on that boy? You have to take some concrete steps. The first way to become bulletproof against like the judgments of your friends and family is practice listening to your own intuition, right? When we tell someone our hopes and our dreams, like when we're just laying everything out there all the time, and we talk about this with boys in the example of telling a guy how many people you slept with, it can be dangerous. I mean, it can lead to connectivity for sure and bonding, but the downside is it can be dangerous because people inherently feel like now it's their right, since you told them, you introduced this into evidence, it's their right to judge, criticize, offer opinions, even if they're from a benign place, from a helpful place, from a loving place. You just don't always need that extra input. Or you can handle it better once you have already done your own data gathering. And that starts with things as simple as Pepsi versus Coke, beach or city, this job or that job, Pilates or running club. You have to get very practiced at listening to your own true authenticity. It's like a muscle. The more you flex that muscle, the more you really like tune out the fear and tune out the external opinions, which is tough. You can hear that internal Oprah voice, the Michelle Obama intuitive voice, right? Because it's quiet. That intuition voice is quiet, and we have to give ourselves space to listen to it. Literally space, like meditation, quiet time, baths, reading, being away from people. But also, like I said, we have to practice doing it in small ways. What truly works for you? You know, I just go back to tapas. Fucking hate tapas. I hate it. I have the cilantro gene, and cilantro is in everything tapas. I always leave hungry and pay $75 for the 4 bites of cilantro-infested food that I ate. I hate it! But for years, I suffered through tapas brunches and happy hours because I wasn't comfortable enough to say like, no, this doesn't work for me. I wasn't listening to my intuition, as stupid as that sounds, over something as silly as brunch, but I wasn't. And at that time in my life, it wasn't just the tapas that was getting, ignored and like permitted and promoted. It was bad behaviors with boys, terrible relationships with my boss at work, fractured friendships. That was just representative of the entire pathology of my life. What made me really clue into my intuition was getting divorced. Because had I listened to my true voice, I wouldn't have gotten married in the first place. I wouldn't have broken up with that person, my wonderful husband, but I would have been happier. I could just be like, you know what? Great. Just living together. What do we need this for? But I didn't. I listened. When are you getting married? When are you getting married? Oh, okay. We've got to get married. Then we were engaged. I don't think I can do this. Well, you're going to. You need to do this. Don't be crazy. He's wonderful. What do you have cold feet? What are you doing? Oh, okay. I just listened to other people all the way around, and it broke 2 people in half. And it hurt our families. It's a divorce. It's a fucking disaster. And after that, I was like, okay, it's time to listen to me. So from the little things of where I live and how I decorate and who I date, I started to, I don't want to say recede because that sounds unhealthy. I started to be more warm-blooded. And I always blame/credit, like the lessons I have to impart to you guys on my divorce, because it was like my life broke open and started over again. And some people, I mean, that happens, I think, to everyone who gets divorced. Some people, it starts over again in a very negative way. I chose to start my life over in a very positive way. I chose to lean into it and learn and face all the things and the fears. So I'm like, okay, I'm coming out of this a warrior, an absolute war eagle. So I tried to live my life less opinionized. I wasn't texting my friends, what should I text this guy? Oh, I'm going to handle it myself. Maybe I'm going to crash and burn, but then I'm going to learn from that, and I'm not going to blame anyone else, okay? Gee, where do I want to live? What do I want to do for a living? You know, I don't need to always ask other people. And that's good because this job that I have, I kind of like can't ask other people. I mean, this is a very solitary career. It's a very pioneering career. And so I have to figure things out on my own without the input of other people. And it's made me, it's tough, but it's made me trust myself more. It just made me more aware of my organic feelings. And that has trickled down to everything else in my life. So, speaking of Tristan and Khloe, my ex-boyfriend Max came to visit me in Montana recently. I did a whole video about it on Flays if you want to check it out. I sort of compare us to like Khloe no, Courtney and Scott. Like we're exes, but we're best friends. And everyone's like, they have kids though. Okay, I get objection sustained. But what Max and I have that's our like kid is our careers. He's a brand strategist, so he's sort of like the opposite of me. He like creates YouTubers and influencers and helps shape their career, and he's fantastic at it. And so he understands my career. I understand what he's doing, and like kind of nobody else in our life gets it the way we get each other. And so to be resources for each other like that is, I think, a really beautiful thing. And my friends are like, oh my fucking God. I didn't tell them that he was visiting until he had already left. And I mean, these are my bestest best friends. I told my friends in Montana and they're like, yeah, no shit, you told your friends in Montana because they're not going to judge you the way we will in New York. And I'm like, okay. They're like, they don't know the whole story. Montana girls don't know the whole story. I was like, no, for sure. But I purposely didn't tell them because I wanted to know how I felt about it first. And I gave myself that sort of emotional buffer zone of like a week or whatever it was to process things, to think. I actually didn't need to. Like, I felt fine. It was a great visit, a platonic, great, happy visit. Like, great. I felt fantastic. And I think he does too. And if not, I'm not in charge of his feelings. Okay. This is a whole other thing. No more codependency. But when I finally did tell my friends, it wasn't like, do you want to grade this paper? What do you think? It was, here's the paper. It doesn't need grade. This is not a paper. This is the book. You can read it in Barnes & Noble. There's no more editing. Close for feedback. Here you go. And that was a big shift for me, because when you go through a breakup, you're talking to your friends about it constantly. And that means you're inviting them in. And they, of course, are going to have an opinion. We have an opinion when our friends do this to us. It's like, don't keep fucking asking me about your ex-boyfriend if like you're not going to listen, right? So I tried to spare them from that. And by the time I told them, they were like, Shallon. And I'm like, you know what? We're in a good place. I feel good about this. And I understand that I'm probably the girl who cried wolf or something. It's like we've all said about our exes in the past. Oh no, I'm fine. No, I see the writing on the wall. No, I get it. Khloe said that. Oh no, I know what kind of guy he is. Don't worry. He cheated on me while I was pushing his child out of my vagina. Things are fine. But all you can do, if you really are in the place of like, no, I've logged the data points. I've thought about this. Maybe you've witnessed change from this person. You've changed. You can say this is the script you say to your friends. I understand your concern. I had the same concerns too. And I also understand your frustration. It's very important to validate their feelings. If you want people to back off, you have to make them feel heard, which can feel like, well, that's the last thing I want to do. I just want them to back off. Peace or victory. I understand your frustrations. You were there in the front lines with me. And I'm sure this seems to you as like, what the fuck was all that advice for? What was all those pints of Ben & Jerry's for? Why were you coming over to my house when I was crying if I was just going to get back together with this dude? I get it. I would feel the same way. I have felt the same way in the past about people. But I am trying to trust my intuition here. And I am also absolving you guys of any sort of rescue efforts. You are no longer my emotional 911s. And I mean that in a good way. Like, if this crashes and burns, I'll deal with it myself. I'll deal with it myself. And I'm not going to ask you guys to come fix it or rescue me or co-author all these texts. All I ask is that you don't say I told you so, because that'd be really painful for me. And trust me, if this goes south, you won't need to say it. I'll know that you told me so. I'll know it. Let them off the hook. So, I mean, there's nothing more frustrating for a doctor than a patient who doesn't follow the medication, right? And it's like, I deal with this. What I do, like giving you guys advice, and it's like, so I slept with them, and I'm like, this is why I don't know that I could be a parent. Because isn't this parenthood? I told you not to touch the stove. Do you remember when I told you not to touch the fucking hot stove? It's crazy making. So let them off the hook with that. Hey, you told me. I have listened judiciously to everything you guys have said. That has not gone in one ear and out the other. You can say things like, you're just not done till you're done. Who doesn't understand that? You know? Be like, there's this itch I just have to scratch with this relationship. And if it goes south this time, I at least will feel like, okay, I didn't leave. I put everything on the table. You know, I gave it not only the college try, the PhD try. And I know you guys don't want me to get the PhD try on this, but this is just what I have to do in order to get the data I need to either plug into this or to move on. Validate their fears before they can say them. Because then they're going to be like, okay, you know what we hear now between Shallon, between Khloe and Tristan? We hear awareness. We hear cognition. We hear that she has done the work. She sounds like she's going to walk it like she talks it. Of course, in terms of Khloe and Tristan, we have heard that before. Khloe is the first one to call out bad behavior. You know, and I always go back to what she said about Tristan when he cheated on her with Jordan. You know, she's like, you may love me, whatever that means. You have no respect for me. I want to get that on a t-shirt. It's like, I've said that to a lot of men in my life. You may love me, whatever that means. You have no respect for me. You know? So say this to the people in your life. Validate their concerns. But girl, listen to the Greek chorus. Listen to the Greek chorus. If you have ever read or had to endure watching a Greek tragedy, which is its own tragedy wrought upon you, you'll notice that the chorus, oh, don't go to war, is in the background. They're in the back. They don't stand right in front of the character, right in front of Achilles' face. Don't go to war with Troy. They won, but still, they don't do that. They're in the back. Why? Because that means the character has to turn around to listen. They have to reorient themselves, that's a metaphor, to listen to the wisdom of the crowd, to listen to wisdom. And the tragic characters don't, the smart ones do. Are you listening to the Greek chorus? And when you do listen, what are you telling yourself to dismantle what that Greek chorus is telling you? Now look, what your Greek chorus might be telling you could be complete horseshit. You have to marry a Catholic. What are you doing? You would date someone who isn't Muslim? What? You think you can make it in New York City? You're never going to get out of this town. If you don't go to law school at USC, you're done. That's all horseshit. That's all complete horseshit. But again, you're not going to know the horseshitty level unless you have practiced listening to your own intuition from those little micro things. All my friends do CrossFit, but I don't like it. I like Pilates. Great. That is a win for your intuition. Even if it turns out you're like, Pilates is super boring. Maybe I'm going to try CrossFit. Okay, fine. You made that decision on your own though. You weren't just a ping pong ball being batted around, right? You logged some data points. You tried it, refined your conclusion. We're going to try something else. That's life, girl. That's fantastic. But you got to practice being good at that so that you can turn around to that Greek chorus in your life and be like, sing me the song of your people then. Sing me your tale of woe. And I will decide the veracity. I will decide its relevancy. I'm not just going to be like, what's that? What do I hear? Oh, there's something behind me. It's whispering in my ear. I got to just listen. And conversely, you're not going to be like, I hear nothing. You are going to be able to examine feedback, examine criticism, ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is it coming from a good place? Is it coming from a place of control from these people? Are they basing their feedback on data points that I've introduced? He cheated on you 8 times. He's probably going to cheat on you number 9. Or you can't marry a Catholic because all Catholics are bad and have mustaches. That's not really a thing. Are they people you even respect? Khloe, she's looking at people on the internet. She's like, who the fuck are you people? I'm not going to listen to you. I say that all the time, right? Who the fuck are you? And then you can say, I accept or reject this conclusion. I accept or reject this feedback. I'm going to log what you're saying as a data point, and I'm going to use it to move my conclusion in one direction or the other. Or the opposite. That's great, mom and dad. You only could marry another Jewish person. That's your path. That's not my path. That's great. You never got out of this small town. This may be where you're happy. I think bigger things are in store for me. I'm going to take a risk. And again, validate the concerns of the people who love you. If the feedback is credible. If it's not, it's like, Catholics. Be like, all right, if it's credible, I'm going to try this. You're not responsible for this. You don't have to come and pick up the pieces. I am making this decision as an independent person, and I will pick up the pieces on my own too. Because then everything belongs to you. We talked about this recently. I talked about a very awful scenario that happened to me in college, and no one came to rescue me from it. And I'm like, it was tragic, but it imbued me with this sense of like solitary propulsion. I belong to me. I belong to me. I'm not clearing my decisions with other people. I'm not living my life for other people, either what they really want from me, what they don't want from me. No, I belong to me. And therefore, I'm braggy as fuck because everything I've achieved, me, baby, me. But then all of my failures, I'm like, who can I blame? Oh, is it just me? Okay. That's the upside and the downside. But it's like, then your life just belongs to you. So look, maybe getting back with your ex is a catastrophically bad decision. Listen to the Greek chorus. What are they saying? Are you pushing back against it just to be a contrarian? Just, no, I know what I'm doing. This is my life. Of course it's your life, girl. But we all live our life best when we can figure out the pieces of feedback to allow in and which ones to kind of weed out. But again, that has to start on a very small level. So before you make the decisions to get back with the ex, before you make the decision to drop out of school and I'm moving to Spain and living on a houseboat, try getting comfortable doing those things on the micro. Little things. What works for me, what doesn't? What makes me happy? What is not really that important? What makes me feel authentic? This is not my thing. You might be surprised where your path shifts. And then this decision you were like wrestling with, getting back with someone, moving, whatever, it might just kind of work itself out. Oh, when I let go of the idea that I have to be married by 30, then why the fuck would I take this guy back? That's the only real reason I was like thinking about doing it is, oh, I need a baby. And then I realized that feedback from my mom and my grandmother, you need a baby, is because they never got to have a career. So their whole idea of life being real is having a baby. But that's not me. That doesn't work for me. So it could dismantle all of this stress just by these little micro movements. It's crazy. It's like how turning down little roads gets you to a completely wild, different destination. So try that. Listen to your intuition. Be confident about what decision you're making. Stand in it confidently. And most importantly, accept that no matter what the outcome is, you alone have to handle it. I want to know your thoughts on the rest of the episode. I just love this. I'm so sad this show's going off the air because there's just so much we can learn. Like every week is just like, so many lessons. But we will be back with some more videos, Shalligators. Like I said, head over to Flays if you want the whole scoop on Max, plus a whole bunch of blowjob tips. We'll see you then.